We are joined from New Zealand by Dan Hungerford. Dan, welcome back to Canada, virtually.
Hey, thank you. yeah. I know. I feel like I'm back. Just it's been a little while, but I feel like I'm back.
Well, you even wore your Canadian Tire shirt.
Yeah, I know.
That.
I thought, hey, man, every time I saw you come through the store when I was working there, I thought, I just want you to feel welcome again. And then there's a couple of people that I knew that would see this. Steve Blatz, the manager there, I thought he would be pretty proud,
Yeah, so, I'll make sure he sees it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
You got to represent the Canadians. That's great. So you moved to New Zealand from Steinbach when?
In 2009 in December. So it'd been nearly 11 years of me being out there. I had met a girl in New Zealand, Olivia Schinkel, and thought she was pretty awesome. So I thought, hey, I'll go out there and find out. And I thought, hey, there'd be lots of snowboarding and where she is. I didn't know anything about Canada. Got to Canada and I realized there was not many mountains in that location, and I realized the wind chill factor as soon as I hopped off the plane. I was in for a big surprise. But yeah, so that was December 2009. That's
when you moved to Canada. So now you're in New Zealand, and how long have you, because you moved back to New Zealand, when was that?
In September this 2020. So it's been a few months now, 4 months, I think. So
during the pandemic is when you moved.
Yeah.
How was that moving there during a pandemic? That must have been tough.
Oh man, it was you're on edge all the time because you thought, well, leading up to getting so we had to wait for my turn to be able to get the tickets to New Zealand because they only let in as much space as they have in their hotels that for quarantining in.
Right.
So I had to wait for my turn to be able to book a ticket. Then I booked a ticket. Then all the flights across Canada cancelled a week before we left, and so we managed to scramble, get a spot for our New Zealand flight. Got across, and man, it was a weird experience going through those airports. Like, there's ghost town, no one in these airports, and everyone's trying their best not to touch each other if you saw a person, and everyone's wearing the masks, and you're on the planes, and it was a whole new experience, that's for sure.
When you isolate, when you get there, they put you in a hotel, right? Like you don't just go isolate wherever you're staying. Like when you get to the country, you have to isolate in a specific place.
Yeah, and you have no idea where you're going to be staying. So they say, like, the main city that you fly into is Auckland, and then they say you possibly could be flown down to the bottom of New Zealand, Christchurch. There's hotels down there, and you could possibly have to stay there for your 2-week stay. So you have to stay there for 2 weeks. So our experience was we got off the plane, we all get filed down like this, you're herded down this corridor, and we get to the end of getting our bags and getting, security checks. And then we get to this lady at the front door, and she goes, all right, you're going to, and we got sent to the Grand Millennium Hotel in Auckland. And so we were happy about that because we didn't have to go far. We just hopped on a bus. It basically felt like we hadn't arrived in New Zealand yet because you're shuttled into this. It felt like we're still part of traveling. So that made it a little bit easier. But we shuttled on these buses all the way to the hotel. You get to the hotel, you get unloaded off the bus, and then you file through these corridors again. You get handed your room keys. We were fortunate enough to get 2 rooms joined up for it. So we got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and me and my wife. So we were already not looking forward to this experience. Imagine being, in that hotel, and you aren't allowed outside of the rooms, and so got this room, went up to our room. It was actually quite nice, so we're quite happy about that. They feed you 3 meals a day. There's been people that have put on 10 pounds as a result of how much they feed you. So it's quite a good experience in that result. But then you can book, you tell me how much to explain, Courtney, but you book your walks on the roof. There's a roof platform that you can walk around in circles. And there was a downstairs area where the cars parked, like to drop off people normally. it was caged area, and you walked in circles there, you know, as much as you wanted. You just had to stay away from people, and then you could go back to your room. And so you could book that, but that's as far as you could go outside. And then you stayed there for your 2 weeks, and you got 2 nose swabs. So that was terrifying. I'm just gonna say, like, I hate needles so badly. And so then just the idea of just a swab going up my nose, I was so scared, man. Like,
I've had the test. I know it's not comfortable.
My wife's a nurse. Yeah, my wife's a nurse, and she was just like, "It's not a big deal," and I was like shaking. I was like, "This is going to be horrible, eh?" And that, yeah, it wasn't pleasant, that's for sure. Anyway, but that's kind of the situation. And then you're let out. I don't know if you want to hear more about it, but you're let out. And it's the weirdest feeling walking around in the city, and you're free. There's military guards in the hotel. They've got the armed forces making sure that people don't leave, because people have in the past. And so you stay there, and then as soon as you let out, you're just like, now do whatever you want. That's the weirdest feeling ever. Like, and so we had a few tears, me and my wife, as we came out, and we got to the car that we had there, and we just bawled, because it was such a crazy feeling to finally get through all of that, and then you're there.
Wow,
so weird.
That's incredible. And New Zealand's numbers when you moved there, they were getting about 80 cases a day roughly.
Yeah,
and New Zealand's small. New Zealand's not big.
Yeah, so right at the start, I remember seeing the numbers being at 1,400 before they started like shutting down the whole country. And I could be a bit off there with numbers, but it was around that when they started locking it all down. And then as soon as they locked it down and did all these hotels, so anyone in has to go through hotels. And then basically there's another step too, where if you get COVID in these hotels, you get shipped out to a quarantine facility, which I don't know what that is, and I don't want to know, because I didn't want to go there. So you go to probably another hotel that's better suited for quarantining actual cases. But so when we got in, there was legitimately the whole of New Zealand had no COVID in it outside of these facilities or these hotels. And that's currently where it is at right now. There was one case found up north of Auckland, and now they're all locking down onto that to make sure that doesn't get out. But so currently in the whole of the community, they call it, the community cases, there's none. It's the all in the quarantine facilities. So currently it seriously felt, Corny, like we'd come back in time. Like it felt like we had, you imagine what it was like the summer before COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is right now, minus being able to travel overseas. But domestic flights are happening. You don't see anyone wearing masks out here. There's, everyone's at the beach. Everybody's right now. We're in the middle of our summer, and so it's the weirdest feeling ever, because it's just nothing going on. You don't see anything.
You can go to any store. You don't have to distance from people. You can hug people. You can be in groups. You can have concerts. You can do all those things. But do you feel that that's because they've taken the measures that they've taken? Obviously, if you're looking overseas and seeing what other countries are in right now and facing, which, to be honest, just so I don't want to say this, at the start of this was, I feel it feels hard for me to talk about my freedoms here, knowing that my family and friends back home are going through some hard times. And so that's been hard for me, even posting what we've been able to do here, the freedoms and stuff, posting that online. I get nervous every time I press post, because I don't want anyone feeling like, envious of it, or feeling sad about the situation they're in. That hurts for me, just to be honest. And so, but at the same time, I'm very grateful that we do have that ability where we are an island, and so that makes it easier. There's certain things that we have here that bring it to our favor like that, where we can shut the borders down. But then that could be in our, it could be harder for us too, because now,
if no one's allowed in, then prices can go up on certain products and things like that. But
and now the provinces here, there are provinces that have had strict measures like Manitoba, and now our cases are going down. And then there's other provinces that are only starting to have strict restrictions now, because their numbers are out of control. But the thing is, all the provinces are connected. So no province is an island. And so if one province is having trouble and they're your neighbor, that is also your problem. Whereas if each province was treated like an island, and they're starting to do that, because now just today they announced that if you are coming in from another province, any province, you have to quarantine for 14 days. And there are a few minor exceptions, but they're starting to treat every province like an island now, like New Zealand, and saying, so we need to keep it contained so that their problem doesn't become our problem and vice versa. But a lot of people bucket those restrictions, saying, oh, now it's just more rules we got to follow.
Yeah. It's hard, man. I'm glad I'm not in the rule making. I'm glad I'm like, I'm glad I'm not those people that have to make those decisions. I'm so glad. I know that what I'm happy about is that now that we're in the situation where we're in, where we do have the freedom to be able to move around, there's like Australia, there's few island countries around us that are starting to set up their parameters of how they're going to try and contain this or work with this or whatever. And now we're setting up bubbles with them so that we can travel to those countries without having to quarantine. And so I know that New Zealand and Australia are setting that up right now. There's been a bit, like we had one case in above Auckland that somebody had COVID. And so then Australia shut down the boundaries just a few days ago. And so now they're talking again about how that was a bit of a fast move, and they're trying to actually open it up again to try and get a bubble going, because New Zealand is kind of like Alberta is for Steinbach and things like that, where lots of people go out there to work in the oil or different kind of jobs out there that could be better pay. Australia offers better pay in many different things, nursing, diamond mines, gold mines. And so lots of my friends that I grew up with are out in Australia right now because there's better pay, but they can't come home to see family. So we've got our situation too. It's, the distance between Auckland and Australia, Sydney, is the same distance between Steinbach and Vancouver. And so, so it's not real close. It's actually a long way. And so there's actually, you can't go see your family, that is overseas. And so we're trying to, even in New Zealand has a high dense population from the islands. So Tonga, Samoa, Rarotonga, and there are lots of people that often will work out here and go back out there to, so we have some people living on our farm from Vanuatu, and they have been here now, they're going to be here for 2 years, not seeing their wives and kids and stuff, because they want to be able to work to raise money for their family and their villages back home, but they can't, they need to take the opportunity that they have, because if they leave to go back home, they could go back home, but they might not be able to come back and then support their families in their islands. So they're choosing to stay here a second year away from their families. It's real hard to see. But it's good offering them. They're on our farm here. We've got a cottage that they stay in and or like a farmhouse. And we have food with them every once in a while, invite them down. So there's some family and, stuff there going on. So that's quite cool. But it's tough, man. It's definitely tough.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I agree with you that I would hate to be the ones making the decisions for this, because it doesn't matter what decision you make, you're going to make some people angry. Now, what is the feel in New Zealand of people that have had to live under these restrictions? As a whole, is New Zealand compliant, or are they argumentative and they're just trying to control us? What has been the general feel for these rules? Because you know how it is in Manitoba.
Yeah, I'm hearing across the ditch there, but I would say for the lockdown that happened initially, I wasn't here at that point, but hearing from family and people, they kind of did it because they needed to, kind of like, all right, let's do this. But I don't know if like New Zealanders, we have a kind of mentality where we are very we're fine for a while, but if this keeps going, we're over it. We just want to go live life.
Yeah.
And so even now, no one wants to talk about COVID here. That from my area. Now I am from rural New Zealand, and so I'm not in the cities. I'm not. There might be different experiences there where they like to chat about COVID all the time. I'm quite over personally the news, where news just bashes America here and talks about COVID, and there's maybe a few other things, but I'm quite over it. I don't even want to look at the news. I'm just, I just look at Steinbeck online, Corny.
There you go.
So on the, I feel like the attitude is, can we just get past this already? Like we're just trying to make the most of what we've got. People have realized how beautiful the country is, that we've got already. So let's just make the most of where we are. It's funny, New Zealanders have this mentality of we want to go overseas. We want to see everything else. We don't realize how good we've got it. Yeah. And it's been quite cool seeing the blinders come off and people go, oh, we have amazing stuff here. We can use it. So I would say attitude-wise, people are kind of wanting to just get past this already. I think they would be quite frustrated, our area anyway, if we got on lockdown again. There'd be quite a lot of people that would be quite upset, because main cases have been in Auckland, which is 3 hours away. Mm-hmm. And so like Brandon distance, and so for us, Bay of Plenty's been on lockdown, which is where I'm at, and we didn't have any cases, and the rest of the trouble was in Auckland and maybe other places in New Zealand, but we got all locked down, and we were told no one was allowed to go out in boats, no one was allowed to go hunting, no one was allowed to do those sorts of things that you can do by yourself, that you don't have to be with people, so you're not going to spread it, or you can stay with your family only. But they didn't want to come rescue people that were maybe in trouble in those sorts of areas, so they didn't allow it, which was probably the biggest killer. My family loves fishing and boats and hunting and all that stuff, and so I think, if they would lock down again, if they let people go to the beaches or do those sorts of things still, it wouldn't be as bad. But there's a lot of people here that are just done, with the whole thing. Yeah, that's kind of.
And once Manitoba is down to, one case a day, like once we're back to what we were in July, when we went several days without a case, then we will be at that point where we can be, okay, let's just not talk about COVID every day, but it's just a real thing, and it affects, because now they're just starting to loosen some restrictions, but they know if they loosen all the restrictions, then we'll be right back where we started. So that's hard. And it's frustrating, but we'll get through this. I appreciate you giving us the insight of what's happening out in New Zealand, and we're jealous of how low your cases are and your weather, because we're getting, I think, minus 35 tonight without the wind chill. So major jealousy right now.
Yeah, we're plus 29 today. So
yeah, you know what? I was really enjoying this conversation until you said that. Dan.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, you just
you know what? We're done here. Well, this was great. Yeah. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Corny. Yeah, take care, man.